Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk all about some unique ways you can set up a job that's billed on a different frequency than the job is serviced. For example, a monthly service that's billed quarterly. I'll also show you how to set up a quarterly job that's billed annually. So let's take a look. For the first example, we're going to open up Chris's customer account. And go to his Jobs tab. Chris already has a monthly service created, so let's open that one. By default, an invoice attached to a recurring job will automatically repeat on the same frequency as the job, which you can see here. Meaning every month when this job appears on the calendar, a new invoice is going to generate along with that job. However, in this case, we actually want our invoice to repeat quarterly rather than monthly. So we're going to edit our invoice, and up here, instead of repeating monthly with each job, we're going to change this to monthly every 3 months. So that will be quarterly. And it's going to repeat by the day of the week, meaning it'll repeat every 3 months on the second Friday. You can have this end never after a certain number of invoices, or you can set an end date, meaning on this date it will not send any longer. The invoice will not recur anymore. The invoice date here is the date that it'll automatically send by email to the customer. And then moving forward, it'll just continue, in this case, every 3 months to automatically send by email. So we want to set our invoice date to be pretty much 3 months from today, for example. So we're going to open this up. We're on the second Friday of the month. So now once May 8th hits, this invoice will automatically send by email, and then we'll just continue to do that every 3 months following. You can also edit the price down here if you needed to. All right, we're going to save. Now, once we click save, you can see that this invoice will repeat every 3 months while still being attached to a monthly service. On the invoice tab on the customer's account, it'll also show you the current invoice, then the next recurring invoice, which hasn't generated yet, which is why there's no invoice number. Okay, so it'll show you up here. Think of this like a queue. So once May 8th hits, this is going to create an invoice and automatically send it by email, and then it will just continue to do that. You'll want to remember though that you do need to add a payment for the first invoice, since the next invoice will automatically send by email. Okay, so we're actually just going to open up this invoice, and we can even do that from our Jobs tab. So we'll open up our monthly service, and we just want to pay this month because in 3 months it'll just continue on its own. So we're going to open our invoice, we'll add a payment, and we'll say this is just by check. Okay, so we've added the payment. Now, whenever you open this monthly job, the invoice attached is going to stay in paid status up until it's triggered to send out next automatically. Okay, so the next month you'll open up your job on your calendar and you'll see that this invoice is attached, but it's still going to stay in that paid status until it's ready to send out. Okay, and then when it does, it'll then have an invoice number. It'll generate the next invoice on the 8th, and it'll automatically send by email. If you needed to edit the next recurring invoice, you can always click up here and then edit to make any changes. Now let's look at another scenario. We actually cover this in our How to Manage Prepaid Customers video, but I hear this pretty often, so I wanted to discuss. In this case, we're going to service our customers quarterly, but bill them annually. And we're actually going to create a service template for this, instead of just editing an existing job. So let's go over to our settings and then our services. And we're going to create a new template. So we'll click on new service and we'll call this one service billed annually. Okay, so since it's a quarterly service, we're going to set the job frequency first, which in this case is going to be monthly, every 3 months. And we're going to have it end never. And now we can add an invoice to our template as well. So we're going to add an invoice. And then we'll choose our line item. So we'll choose quarterly service. Since this is going to be an annual bill, we'll just increase the quantity, so it's going to be 4. And you'll see by default, it's going to repeat every 3 months with each job. However, in this case, we actually want our invoice to automatically send out annually. So we're going to edit this. We're going to change this to yearly. Okay, so now this invoice will be attached to a quarterly service once we actually create a job using this template. However, the invoice is going to automatically repeat yearly. So let's save our changes and we'll head to our calendar and take a look. So now we're going to create a new job on Friday the 14th. We're going to choose our customer, which in this case will be Chris. And then we'll choose our new template that we just created. So we're going to choose our quarterly service billed annually. And so now that our job and invoice have actually been created on our calendar, we can be a little bit more specific on our invoice frequency. So the job is going to repeat every 3 months on the second Friday, which will be quarterly. And our invoice is going to repeat yearly because of our service template. That's how we set that up. Only thing that's left to do is to set our invoice date. So remember, you want to set the invoice date to be the next recurring invoice, right? That's when you would like it to automatically send by email. So in this case, it would basically be 1 year from today. So the second Friday of February in 2021 is when the next one should send out. So we're going to click. We'll go to February 2021. And we'll choose our second Friday. Okay, so once February 12th hits, 2021, this invoice will automatically send by email, and we'll continue to do that every year. You can also make any pricing adjustments down here if you'd like, and then click Save. Okay, and again, it's very important to remember that the next recurring invoice will generate and then start sending out automatically. However, you do need to add a payment to the first recurring invoice always, right? So we need to add our payment for this year, and then next year it'll kind of continue on its own. So we're going to add a payment. We'll just say a check. And now that will stay in paid status until February 12th, 2021, where it will automatically send the next invoice. Now, we'll basically see this paid invoice attached to this quarterly job up until next year when it sends out again. So I kind of want to complete this job just so we can jump ahead on our calendar and show you how it will look in 3 months when the job reappears. So we're going to jump ahead 1, 2, 3 on the second Friday. This is our next recurring job. And like we mentioned, the invoice will stay in that paid status all the way up until it's scheduled to send out again, okay? If we go back to the customer's account, we'll also be able to see when the next recurring invoice is scheduled to send out, as well as have the ability to edit the next invoice if necessary. So we'll go back to Chris's invoice tab. you'll see that the most recent invoice is marked as paid, and then the next one is scheduled to send out February 2021. And once again, you can always edit the next recurring invoice by just clicking here and then clicking edit. So just to recap, we took a look at how to set up a recurring job with an invoice repeating on its own frequency directly from the calendar. So that was when we edited Chris's monthly service. Then we learned how to take it a step further and customize your service template to default to an invoice with its own frequency. And finally, we used our new service template to create a job on our calendar. So I really hope this helped provide some clarity on how you can utilize the recurring invoice feature. But if you have any questions, you can reach us at 855-536-7470 or open a live chat and we'll be more than happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.